Hello, I am Goose. I watched the Rocky movies recently with my dad, and they were actually pretty good. Definitely long overdue to watch them. The first and second one were a good pair, the third one was really good, the fourth one was really, really good, the fifth movie was made, and the sixth movie was a nice finale. Anywho, while I was watching it, there was something itching at the back of my head, like a big green boxing glove punching at the back of my brain. And then I remembered. Oh, right! The one thing that's gotten me to where I am on YouTube. You'd think with how big a fan I am of the Punch-Out games that I'd have seen Rocky several times over already. Well, you'd be wrong, random stranger on the internet. But now that I've actually seen Rocky's story, I'm curious as to how Little Mac's journey would change if you just slipped Rocky Balboa in his place. Now, I know that you're thinking two things. First, Goose, this is such a good idea for a video. You're so smart and clever and interesting. And to that I say, oh, you flatter me. But the other thing is probably, how on earth could Rocky possibly have any trouble? Obviously, he might shred through a lot of the early game easier than Little Mac, but I do think there are some characters that would give him a ton of trouble considering the sort of things they do in game. So I'm going to keep the intro short so we can get into how Rocky Balboa would fare if he was in the WVBA. Also credit to Sons of Wanarchy and Proximity V2 on Twitter. Two upstanding gents who were a part of the conversation that created the Twitter thread where I got the idea for this video from. Okay, here we go. Now, before we get into the fights, I want to establish some ground rules so this isn't just me bashing action figures together in my head. A speculatory video like this needs some speculatory structure, and some structure we shall create. First things first, we need to specify what Rocky is going to be doing here. All 13 boxers in the WVBA, by WVBA rules from Glass Joe to Sandman. If he beats everybody, maybe we'll talk about the monkey. Do I think he can beat every boxer? I'm not entirely sure. That's what the video's for. But I figured it was fair to go over all of the boxers instead of just ending it the moment we encounter a character Rocky might not beat. As for title defense, they do some stuff in that part of the game that I don't even think Mike Tyson could beat. And I'm talking about the Tyson that can KO you with one uppercut, not the ear biter or the detective. Besides that, this video is already egregiously long, but I might make a video talking about those fights as well. Also, throughout this video, I'm going to be giving some quick little fun facts about each boxer Rocky knocks down as we go through them, because I have too much trivia in my brain not to share with all 2,000-ish of you. Next, I believe it is important that we establish what version of Rocky we have as our up-and-coming boxer for the WVBA. My first idea was to go over all 6 variations of Rocky to see which one fares the best. However, it would take ages to go over each and every intricate piece of information about every individual iteration of Rocky, so I figured it would be smart to rather pick the strongest version of Rocky. And going off of pure physicality, I've got to give this one to Rocky 4. Each version of Rocky has his own strongest aspect, be it the heart from 1, determination from 2, strategy from 3, body from 4, Rocky 5, or experience from 6. And when it comes to pure firepower, number 4 has the best chances of absolutely knocking down one boxer after another. So that gives the Italian Stallion these stats for his journey to become the WVBA World Champion. Rocky Balboa, age 38, 5'11", and 210 pounds. Hailing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with a current win-loss ratio of 56-23. Alright, now that we have those rules established, and the specific time frame of Balboa we're dealing with, we can finally begin. Let's see what he can do, starting with the minor circuit. Glass Joe, France's glass jaw, the old 199. What is there to say, really? 38 years old, 5'10", and half the weight of Rocky, Glass Joe loses. This is the one boxer I am the most certain of Rocky winning round 1. I mean, the dude was basically born to lose. Anytime he's in a game, he's the first opponent, and he hits the mat faster than you can learn the controls. He's weak, he's telegraphed, he's dumb, he can't take a punch for the life of him, he can't throw a punch for the life of him, and all he does is talk about wanting to retire and how frail he is. I'd say Rocky has like a 99.9999% chance of winning. But I know you want to say, why not 100%? Well, he still has that one win. Basically every Punch-Out fan knows this already, but according to the official Nintendo magazine, Glass Joe got his single win, quote, in a freak accident with Nick Bruiser. So, there's always a chance that the same thing happens again. I'm not saying Rocky should be scared, I'm just saying that you can't count out the little guy. Why do you think Punch-Out is such a good story? Little Mac taking on these absolute giants and knocking them to the mat against all odds. It would make for a very harrowing story for Glass Joe to actually get a KO out of Rocky. But unfortunately, Glass Joe is not the main character. It's Rocky Balboa. And Rocky Balboa is absolutely knocking Glass Joe into next week. As for fun facts, did you know that when Mike Tyson actually played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, he couldn't even beat Glass Joe? That certainly blew me out of the water when I found out, but I personally won't be insulting the game skills of a man that could easily kill me if I look at him wrong or for too long. So I will just leave that at the objective fact. After that shameful display from Joe, we come across Von Kaiser. 42 years old, 6 foot tall, 144 pounds, and hailing from Berlin, Germany. Now, looking at just his stats, it seems like he has a better track record than Rocky's last opponent. However, these stats don't take into account Von Kaiser's PTSD, quote-unquote, which he gained from losing to the children he was teaching boxing to. This severely hinders his fighting skills, leaving a lot of his attacks with off-the-wall telegraphs, and this random, panicky block that just leaves him more open to attack than he would be normally once he lets it down. If this was a Von Kaiser in his earlier years, then I think Rocky would have substantially more trouble with him. However, with Von Kaiser's condition in the 2009 game, I gotta say that Balboa is having minimal trouble with this German juggernaut. I use the term juggernaut lightly. As for fun facts, did you know that Von Kaiser displays many symptoms of shell shock? This is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder that was most common with the soldiers from World War I, which are displayed in bizarre, artistic ways, such as his errant twitching being accompanied by gunshots. However, Von Kaiser was born in 1942, the year that World War II ended. So it's hard to say whether or not he actually fought in the war, but I have my doubts that a negative 1-year-old would be enlisted into the military. Maybe he just likes the traumatized aesthetic? Who knows? Once Von Kaiser blacks out, we come across a box that might potentially give Rocky some trouble, but potential just amounts to what could be, and not what actually is. Though I guess all of this is what could be, since I'm just making shit up. But regardless, we have our next opponent. We have a 6'3", 210 pounds, Brooklyn-born, 20-year-old disco demon up next on the chopping block. And Rocky is the knife. Was that corny? I don't care, I like it, I'm keeping it in. Disco Kid is a bit more of a threat, with a larger stature, and that win-loss ratio of 4-12 makes him a whoa, 4-12? Okay, never mind him being more of a threat. He is a little bit faster than our last two competitors, but he's even more painfully telegraphed than them as well. If you think that Rocky is losing to someone who says, "Here it comes," out loud before throwing a punch, then you're out of your mind. The only thing that might get Rocky into trouble is if he underestimates Disco Kid so hard that he gets enough hits to win in by technicality, but even then his chances aren't good. As for fun facts, this one was rather tough to think of, as the fact that he is theorized to originally be Kid Quick is fairly well known. However, I did find something, even if it's small. During the mid-round intermission, Disco Kid is wearing headphones listening to music. And if you listen close enough, you can hear what he's listening to, which just so happens to be the music that plays when you pause during the fight against him. Neat. And now we round out the minor circuit with our first absolute oddball of this little challenge run, and it's the WVBA Minor Circuit Champion at that. King Hippo is the first and only character in this game that doesn't really have any stats, aside from his win-loss ratio of 18-10. That aside, this man is going to be a struggle. Given how huge he is, I would say King Hippo is at least 350 pounds, maybe even 400, and possibly 7 feet tall. Could be even taller, but I have no idea. Those stats alone would make King Hippo a very challenging opponent, but not in the traditional sense. I don't think King Hippo would give Rocky that hard of a time. He is pretty predictable, and his hands falling down give Rocky a real easy way to get hits in, once he recognizes that that's King Hippo's gimmick. I just think that King Hippo is so big that he might wear out Rocky before Rocky can knock him out. But aside from that endurance test, it wouldn't really take much to take the King down. Definitely our first real challenge of the run, at least compared to the dweebs we were dealing with earlier in the minor circuit. As for fun facts, King Hippo will rub his stomach in pain during the intermission in his first fight, and gesture for Little Mac to aim at his face instead, not so subtly hinting at how to defeat him. Interestingly enough, this directly contradicts his NES counterpart, who outright refuses to tell you his weakness. And with him out of the way, we're already at 4 of the 13 boxers completed. Time really flies when you're being force-fed useless trivia, huh? On to the major circuit. Now we come across a classic Punch-Out character who is definitely a step up from the last 4. Piston Hondo. Flying all the way from Tokyo, Japan, this 6'2", 174-pound beast has a win-loss rate of 26-1. But having a good reputation does not make you immune to an ass-whooping. Rocky probably knocks this fool around for a spell with minimal trouble. I mean, I gotta give it to him. He may be the first serious boxer Rocky has to fight on this list, but that just means Rocky is fighting a normal boxer. And he cleans those up like he needs to do it to survive. Though I don't think Rocky absolutely annihilates him. Piston Hondo isn't like a lot of the Punch-Out cast, where they have a very obvious weak point, painfully telegraphed attacks, or a specific gimmick that can be easily exploited. Aside from the Hondo Rush, he is just a pretty standard fight with no real easy way out. Though, if Rocky was allowed star punches, the opportunities to gain them would make this match way easier for Rocky. Regardless, Hondo would put up a respectable fight before getting knocked down, and I think that's better than nothing at the very least. As for fun facts, Piston Hondo is voiced by Kenji Takahashi, who actually has a pretty spirited history of roles, working on the likes of Attack on Titan, Street Fighter, Skyward Sword, Black Butler, Bleach, and even ARMS, where he voiced Ninjara. So in a way, Punch-Out lives on in the ARMS universe, in a very small, obscure, technical way. After an honorable effort from Mr. Hondo, we are presented with the Canadian Bear Hugger, a 32-year-old salmon-armed southpaw slugger. I love writing alliterations. With a 29-12 win-loss ratio, measuring at 6'3" and 440 pounds. Yikes. That is not a jab at Bear Hugger's weight. I just think the disparity between these two is too big. You could fit 2 Rocky Balboas inside of Bear Hugger. Needless to say, I think the pure weight difference is enough to give Rocky a major struggle. I just think that Bear Hugger might have a chance to out-tank Rocky long enough to either land a nasty punch to take him down, or win by technicality, in a similar vein as King Hippo. The pure difference in mass is a huge deciding factor, not to mention the fact that he routinely trains with a grizzly bear, which has to be worth something in the strength department. Also, odds are King Hippo is in a similar weight class as Bear Hugger, if not even bigger, but I'd rather use the data I have rather than make up an imaginary number to make King Hippo seem like a less exploitable battle than he actually is. Anyways, Bear Hugger is without a doubt our first actual serious threat to the run, but Rocky still has a pretty decent chance at this one. Though, I don't think I'd be betting the farm on that. As for fun facts, I couldn't find anything particularly interesting aside from the fact that he was originally going to be in King Hippo's place in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but he was replaced due to hardware limitations. So nothing huge or groundbreaking for Bear Hugger, but I still like him regardless. Hey, Future Goose here. I lied! Bear Hugger does have an interesting fact. A very interesting fact. And just like Hondo, it's voice actor related. Bear Hugger's VA, Richard Newman, gave life to M. Bison in the English dub of the 1995 Street Fighter TV show. Okay. Judging by your silence, I'm guessing that means just about nothing to you, so, he's the guy who recorded this line.
Oh, this is delicious! Yes! Yes!
And personally, that is something I would be honored to have on my list of achievements as a voice actor. But I digress. Up next in the opposing corner, we have the champion of Mumbai, India, Great Tiger. 29 years old, measuring in at 5'11 and 132 pounds, this magician has a win-loss ratio of 24-5, giving him quite the solid reputation. Or he would, if it wasn't for the whack-ass magic he uses in this fight. Great Tiger is definitely a hiccup in Rocky's freight train of destruction, but not as much of a definite one as Bear Hugger. Great Tiger's magic is all pretty annoying, sure, what with the teleportation and the creation of the clones and all that, but I can't imagine that doing much more than annoying Rocky, as he has dealt with hallucinations in the past and knows the stellar counterplay of just hit the one in the middle. I don't think Rocky is having much trouble fighting this guy. Hitting him? Maybe, but once he ends up landing a couple hits, Great Tiger is nowhere near built enough to take the punishment Rocky can dish out. Needless to say, I don't think he would be much of a challenge, if at all, and honestly, I feel like something similar can be said for our next contestant. As for fun facts, Great Tiger's exhibition theme was performed and edited by Daler Mendy. Honest to God. Now, if that doesn't ring a bell, then maybe this song will. That song had become a pretty popular meme 3 years prior to this game coming out, so maybe the people at Next Level Games were just really fond of that song and took a shot at contacting Mendy to have him take a part in the game's development. That's just brainstorming on my part, though. I will be right back. Alright, I'm back. Where were we? Ah, yes. Up next, we have our WVBA Major Circuit champion, hailing from Madrid, Spain. Coming in at 6'1", 152 pounds, Donflamco is seemingly a bit of a threat, given his 22-3 win-loss ratio. That is, until you consider the fact that he is cocky out of his mind. Donflamco is definitely our Apollo Creed for this run, at least the Apollo Creed we see in Rocky 1. Absolutely underestimates his opponent and doesn't realize the danger he's in until it's too late for him. Only this time, Rocky won't be giving him the rematch. Donflamco, ironically, is far too gimmicky and predictable with his bait attacks to give Rocky too much trouble. Honestly, I would consider him less of a threat than Piston Hondo, who actually locks in and takes things seriously. There are two things, however, that make Donflamco any sort of noteworthy danger. First is the potential of knocking off his toupee. From my experience actually playing the game, Donflamco, after losing his hairpiece, is a monster. Anytime I knocked off his hairpiece, I'd just restart. That rigmarole was just too much for me as a kid, and if I played it again, it would probably be too much for me now. If Rocky can steer clear of punching Flamenco's toupee off, then I'd say he beats this guy no problem. The second thing is his pure physical strength. During his intro montage for his first fight, Donflamco is seen knocking a bull into the air with a single punch. How far the bull ends up flying is a mystery, as the intro cuts away and ends before we see what happens to the bull. So whether or not the bull flew 20 feet out of the Coliseum entirely or into orbit is up in the air, no pun intended. That being said, I'm not sure if I should count this as a strength feat for Don. Firstly, because he is way too much of a pushover in-game for me to feel like this is a legitimate feat. Surely if he was capable of this sort of power, he would be in, like, the world circuit, right? It made me wonder if this is something I should genuinely consider for this video, so as I was writing the script, I contacted Sons of Wanarchy on Discord, the one who gave me the idea for this video and had the discussion to begin with, and confronted him with this query. And he responded with, "The bull is a paid actor." Which, I'll be honest, is both funny enough for me to take as fact for this video, and honestly feasible in the Punch-Out universe. Given that the grizzly Bear Hugger encounters in his intro is smart enough to spar with him without mauling Bear Hugger's face, I wouldn't be surprised if the bull was smart enough to just be bribed into throwing the match against Donflamco. Although, those sort of Matador matches are usually pretty heavily weighted. Are they? I haven't really watched one. I just never see the bull win. Though I guess if the bull won, they probably couldn't show it since it would be pretty bloody. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. While Donflamco is a cocky fighter that Rocky could probably exploit to an easy victory, Flamenco's pure physical strength can't be ignored, because there is no way that bull could jump that high on its own. So I'll just lower Rocky's chances of winning by a few ticks to account for this physical power. As for fun facts, Donflamco has become a nickname for former South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, who was in office when the game was published. This epithet is most likely due to Sanford bearing a strong resemblance to Flamenco, which I didn't believe until I looked the guy up, and what do you know? Not far off. On top of just a visual resemblance, Sanford is more famous for having committed adultery with a Spanish-speaking woman than his tenure as a governor. This was likely used as a reference to Donflamco's image as a ladies' man in the Wii version, so, tough luck for Donflamco getting roped in with this rube. And with that, we have comfortably beaten the major circuit with minimal issue, aside from, all the issues we had. Surely this is a good sign. Smooth sailing through the world circuit, yeah? Friend, if it was that easy, do you think I'd be making this video? Get real. Aran Ryan. If you thought Bear Hugger was bleak, Aran Ryan is Rocky's Grim Reaper. At first glance, Aran Ryan is pretty unassuming. 6'1", but fairly skinny, a surprisingly even win-loss ratio. Hell, the only proper threatening aspect of him is that he's Irish. Oh, also the insanity. If this was SNES Aran Ryan, then yeah, Rocky takes him out no problem. He's just a completely normal dude, just about. But what the Wii version of Aran Ryan does that sets him apart from 99% of the cast is, cheating. I'm talking cheating. He puts horseshoes in his boxing gloves. I don't care how strong the Italian stallion is, even horses heed to horseshoes. Rocky is not surviving a fight against a dude with brass knuckles who is also using illegal moves, and on top of that is just downright insane. Though I can't completely give Aran Ryan the win here, he is still a skinny, pasty Irish dude, and I doubt Rocky would have any trouble bobbing and weaving his way around this maniac and landing a couple punches to knock him down. The only issue is that if Rocky gets hit, he's taking them at like 10 punches for the price of 1. It is a gruesome fight for Rocky, 3/4 of the time. But in that hopeful fourth quarter, Rocky just might be able to squeeze out a win with as minimal brain damage as possible. As for fun facts, this one is less of an actual piece of trivia and more just something I noticed while thinking about Aran Ryan. He jokingly says that Little Mac has cheeseburgers in his gloves, despite the fact that Aran himself has horseshoes in his gloves, both of which are synonymous with each boxer's respective race. Maybe projecting a bit, are we, Aran? With that insane obstacle out of the way, hopefully the rest of the world circuit isn't as tough. And I'm immediately proven wrong as we are approached by an absolutely massive man hailing from Moscow, Russia, and with a win-loss ratio of 35-2, Stto Pinsky is no pushover. Honestly, he's pretty similar to one of Rocky's former opponents, Ivan Drago, the main difference being the mediums they live in. Obviously, Stto Pinsky is from a video game, and the punch-out power ceiling is much higher than the mostly realistic setting Rocky takes place in. So, while it may be a much harder fight for Rocky, I feel like that he already knows a pretty good game plan for Popinski. So, I feel like Rocky has a fair chance of victory. If he plays his cards right, at least. Though, whatever is going on with Popinski's sodas that makes him jump right back up could prove troublesome for Rocky, so I think his best bet at victory would be to get a TKO, because I'm not sure he can take as many hits from these World Circuit monsters in the same way someone like Little Mac could. All the WVBA boxers have home field advantage, and a major part of this challenge is Rocky trying to deal with the cartoonish amount of damage these Goliaths can dish out. So as we get closer to the end, Rocky is going to need to be much more careful than he has been with the other circuits. Though we just almost lost the run to Aran Ryan's horseshoes, so I suppose we already knew that. Probably as early as Bear Hugger, honestly. As for fun facts, the designer of Street Fighter II, Akira Nishitani, made a statement on his Twitter that Zangief's name early on in development was Vodka Gobalski, and that it was a direct parody of Stto Pinsky's original name, which was Vodka Drunkinski, in his original appearance in the arcade version of Punch-Out! Also unrelated, but how fun would a new Punch-Out! Arcade game be? Like, even just putting the Wii game onto an arcade cabinet, but with a different control scheme? Like just regular buttons or something. I know I'm rambling, I just think that would be a really cool way to get more people into Punch-Out! And get it more well-known again. After that thirsty gentleman, we come across one of the most iconic Punch-Out! Characters, I'd argue only behind Little Mac and Glass Joe. Bald Bull, hailing from Istanbul, Turkey, and measuring in at 6'2" and 298 pounds, he really reminds me of Clubber Lang from Rocky III, with how short-tempered he is. Also unrelated, but I love the way he does his rolling jabs. It's really unique. Anyways, despite his notable 34-4 win-loss ratio, the only real threat to Rocky, I think, is his pure muscle mass as a video game character compared to the real-life physique of Rocky. But that's really the only thing Rocky would have trouble with, I think. It mostly just becomes a test of strength, as in, can you hit Bald Bull enough to knock him down before he knocks you down? Which, I mean, when you boil it down to that, that's just all boxing. And honestly, Bald Bull is a fairly predictable opponent, which is mostly the fault of the Bull Rush, which I think Rocky could very easily counterattack, given the fact that Bald Bull gives you so much time to prepare in-game and makes it very obvious that he's about to rush you. And Rocky would be more than ready to give him a tummy ache for going for such a risky play. As for fun facts, it seems like, unlike Clubber Lang, that Bald Bull's outrageous temper is more of an act for the crowd. During his intro montage before your first fight with him, it seems like he's relatively calm, and he only gets more and more angry as the paparazzi continuously invade his privacy, which leads to him going berserk, which, I mean, fair enough. If I ever got famous, I would be pretty pissed if my privacy was getting invaded left and right. Once that big buff bald dude is knocked to the floor, we come across our penultimate opponent for this challenge, Super Macho Man, who is no pushover. Though, I probably couldn't say that for anyone in the world circuit. Maybe Aaron Ryan if he wasn't wearing horseshoes in his gloves, but he's already done. Super Macho Man hails from Hollywood, California, and is 6'4", weighs 242 pounds. On top of that, he has this staggering win-loss ratio of 35-1, only a single loss in his whole career, but I believe Super Macho Man is in a similar boat as Donflamco, in the fact that he is far too cocky in the ring. Not to say he hasn't earned his right to be a little cocky, given his fighting record, but it's the same problem Flamenco had, where he may underestimate Rocky until it's too late. However, Super Macho Man probably has a better chance regardless due to his sheer muscle mass. That's the main thing with these boxers. The further we go up in the ranks, it becomes less about gimmicks and more about the fact that they're just walking tanks compared to Rocky. Not to mention they bring a fraction of their cartoonish power to their fights against Balboa. But yeah, as long as Rocky makes sure to duck under Super Macho Man's clotheslines, he should be able to release the bogus before Macho Man can and knock him to the mat. As for fun facts, did you know that Little Mac just straight up disappears during Super Macho Man's TKO animation? No, really, take a look. Where'd he go? I don't know. And now we reach our finale, our world champion of the WVDA, the engineer of the Dreamland Express. And let me tell you, it's not looking good for Rocky. Mr. Sandman is an absolute freight train of a man, hailing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, measuring in at 6'5" and 284 pounds, with a win-loss ratio of 31-0. Yeah, I gotta be honest with y'all, I wanted to end this on a more triumphant note, with Rocky's victory, but I can't even try and pretend Rocky has a chance. For one, Mr. Sandman is just a ridiculously skilled boxer, as well as being massive and incredibly fast. I mean, his perfect record is proof enough that Mr. Sandman is a monster, straight up. I'm not talking in metaphors or in some kind of theoretical way, or any other obtuse method of speaking. He is a beast, and the only way Rocky is beating this guy is if there is some kind of divine intervention. Want to know why I think this? Just let's watch Mr. Sandman's intro montage for his title defense fight. Did you see that part? He punched a building into rubble. He leveled a brick building with his bare hands. No beatable opponent does that. And I know what some of you are going to say. But Goose, that was his title defense intro. He couldn't have done that in his contender fight. Which I have to say, wrong! During any title defense cutscene, if a character has some sort of specific training arc or development to their fighting style, it is explicitly shown off in their intro montage. Piston Hondo trains like crazy to become way stronger. Stto Pinsky basically starts taking soda steroids to become insanely strong. Bald Bull learns to survive an attack from an actual charging bull. Wow. If I make a video on the title defense fights, it is not looking good for Rocky. Anyway, Mr. Sandman's title defense cutscene doesn't show him doing anything other than just getting super angry, which means he is absolutely capable of knocking down a building, even before losing to Little Mac. The only reason Little Mac has a remote chance is because he's on the same cartoony playing field as Mr. Sandman. Also the fact that he's the player character in a video game, so he kind of has to, but that's besides the point. There is no way that Rocky is tanking freight trains to the face long enough to knock out Mr. Sandman. I just can't see it happening, if I'm perfectly honest. Even if you were to combine all of the strongest aspects of Rocky from all the different movies, I still don't think it's enough to give Rocky even a 10% chance of winning. The power disparity is too grand for Rocky to have any hope of success. Forget about him coming out victorious, I'd argue he might not even make it out alive, but that's besides the point of this video. Also, he was the last fighter, so it was tough to find a place to squeeze in this fun fact, but Mr. Sandman is the only boxer in the world circuit who doesn't do something that would result in him getting banned for life. Aran Ryan would be banned for just making about every infraction in the book, basically bringing a gun to a knife fight. Super Macho Man and Bald Bull would be banned for attacking the referee, while Stto Pinsky would be banned for doping. Though Mr. Sandman would still get his boxing license revoked for destroying a building, so who really wins here? And so, despite insane efforts against the likes of Great Tiger, Bear Hugger, Donflamco, and Aran Ryan, Rocky Balboa unfortunately falls just short of becoming the WVBA World Champion, essentially tripping at the finish line. Although he didn't make it all the way through to the end of the Boxers, he did leave with an honorable record in the WVBA, with only one hard loss to Mr. Sandman in the best-case scenario. Though it was possible that he could be taken down by a couple other boxers earlier on, so it could have been worse if I was more harsh on Rocky's skills. As for the monkey, yeah, no way. But if this video does well, I'll consider giving him a dedicated section, an analysis, and a video about the title defense fights, because those I think Rocky has an even less chance of being successful in. Plus, we know where he's getting hard stuck anyways. I love talking about Punch-Out though, and I'm glad I finally watched the Rocky series. Without that, this video, and probably Punch-Out as a whole, wouldn't exist. Though maybe I'm giving Rocky too much credit. But yeah, that's looking to be the end of the video, so I'm gonna take care of some housekeeping before we end things off. Take a look at this lovely fan art while you wait, okay? Firstly, check out my socials. Twitter, Instagram, Newgrounds, and TikTok, all of which will be in the description. Also, subscribe to my archive channel, cleverly named the Amigos Archive, where I save all of my stream VODs that weirdly disappear from the main channel for some reason. Next, join my Discord server if you want. There, you can talk to me and other fans of the channel directly, as well as submit ideas for future videos and, I don't know, just talk. It's cool. Thirdly, become a member of the YouTube channel. I call them headliners because I think it sounds cooler. It's only like $3 a month, and you get access to exclusive posts in the community tab, polls to decide the priority of uploads. Some videos will be out early to headliners, and you get a special channel in the Discord server that only me and headliners can access. I'd consider it if you have some cash to spare. Also, you can submit fan art for this little gallery to me on any of my social medias, or directly in the Discord server. Just something to keep in mind if you're artistically gifted. In any case, I think that's going to be the end of the video. My name is Goose. I thank you very much for watching, and make sure to eat your greens and all that crap. Now get lost!